Okay. What I'd like to do now is introduce our next speaker. Sorry. Maybe I need some more refreshment. Nishu, who is a clinician who's worked for Novartis for the, I think, last 6 years, is it?
8 years.
8 years, 8 years. Who will talk today about a clinician's view on visualization. And I think it's also important to remember that being a medic, you're not necessarily technically au fait with all of the different solutions out there. And it's really up to our kind of community to help assist medics to try and interpret and understand the data. So I think that's where your perspective will come from. It's not always visualization is the next best graph, or can I add bars or things to this. Sometimes it can be a bit more mundane, but nevertheless, it's still very helpful from a clinical perspective. Okay, so without further ado, I'll let you go ahead with that. Okay?
Thank you, Joseph. Thank you, everyone, for the plug already. So I think I get a very perfect time slot after lunch. There's no coffee even, so you can just digest your food. And let me share some of my experience with data review from a physician aspects. Okay. So first of all, actually, I have to tell you that I have very kind of like a fancy slides, a lot of movement. I have to thank Joseph, and he helped me put these slides like this. That certainly is not my style, okay? So a little bit about myself. So, okay, if I can make this function. It doesn't work already. Oh, here, okay. So, okay, that's what I mean, start moving, okay, sit still. So I did my medical training in China in the Hebei Medical School. Then I finished a fellowship training in Peking Union Hospital in neurology. So it's one of the biggest hospital in China. Then I actually went to the US and did a PhD in anatomy and neurobiology and in Kentucky. So actually I don't know how many of you from Kentucky, probably very few, not few. So then in 2004, I came to Basel for a 2 years postdoc fellowship. So I was in the Beal syndrome. Again, it's in the neurobiology department. So 2006, I joined Novartis. For the past 8 years, I have been working in the clinical development, mainly in the phase 3 study, on phase 2, phase 3. So, and I was a lead medic for one of our pivotal phase 3 study, Freedom study, for Gilenya. As you all know, that Gilenya is the first oral drug for the MS treatment. Yeah. Then later on, I also was a clinical indication leader for the BAF study, which is also the second generation of S1P modulator. Now is in the phase 3 development for SPMS. Okay. So having said that, now you know all my background is, and I worked with patients and I worked with clinical team, and I spent a lot of time reviewing the clinical data during the study, and write 4 or 5 study reports. Certainly, and I'm not a programmer, and I'm not a statistician either. So, and why I'm here? When Joseph asked me that back several months ago to give a talk here, and I quite feel out of place. I don't really have this critical to understand all this program language. So that's also why I'm here. I want to really share with you how I review the data and how the clinical review the data. So I need to, to say, is any better way or, technique can help us make our life simple. Okay. So clinical data review is a very important part in the clinical, for the clinical study, also during the, study conduction. There are 2 parts. First part is the the ongoing study review. That happens when studies are ongoing, the data roll in. Being a medic, also the clinical scientist, we spend hours to look at the safety data and the efficacy data. Okay. Then that's the second part. I call it the post-database lock stage. So there we got our final output and we look at the data. It's more like data interpretation. So it's any, the safety data is any like we look at the summary table, look at the figures, graphs. Then we have to write the narratives. As you all know that narratives is part of CSR that we have to submit to health authority. Okay. So in this case, I will give you actually example for each stage. Let's start with the CSR stage. Here pretty much like me, but with longer hair, okay? So, so the point is really, when we finish once the database locked, oh gosh. Let's see if I can make this, okay. Once database locked, we have very strict timeline. When the study report, when the output is available, when the study report has to be, finalized, very strict, especially if the study is a submission study, okay. So for the phase 3 program studies, really hundreds outputs. Give you an example, for the Freedom study, we had more than 700 outputs. I indeed has a bunch of the binders and print out like this. Each of output here is just an example of how the output looks like. Okay, most of the outputs 10 pages, 100 pages, and this one, I think that one is 1,000 pages. That's the total. So again, the data actually is example the true, but don't pay attention to the data. Okay. So among those thousands outputs, then let's go into more detail. Being a physician, I really have to understand what's the safety, what efficacy. Okay, I'm giving you an example here. Is my favorite list, which is the AE list, and one of events you can see here is the bradycardia. So for people who do not know Angelina, so actually it's a very good drug, very efficacious drug for MS. However, the drug induces heart rate reduction, and it's first dose, like 6 hours after the first dose. So that's really no. In that case, bradycardia is event of interest. When I saw these 30 cases of bradycardia, what I want to know immediately. So how fancy this slide? Yeah, here. I wanted to know who are those patients. Okay, we have 30 patients. I need to know who are these patients and what are heart rates related to this bradycardia. You can be 40, can be 50. It's make different if a patient had a 35 heartbeats. Okay, then is any concomitant symptoms related to the event. So what those patients' heart rates at baseline, medical history. Okay, are those events treated or not? Any ECG findings related to this bradycardia? To make things more complicated, in the same AE table, and I also noticed there's 10 cases of dizziness, 8 cases of hypertension. Are those events related to bradycardia or not? What do? I will first of all back my statistician to give me the patient number, then back my programs to give me the list, Then, then went through all this list, and then ideally, the best scenario, I was able to get the patient profile. But still, after like, I don't know how many days it will take, I get all the information, I'll sit there, start to look line by line, okay? So another example is, let's say, I'm looking into one patient or individual patient. Now let's look at the big picture. In terms of data interpretation, the summary data, the figures, then we have the RAP. Okay, you do know we have RAP module 6, which is the in-text table, and module 7 is post-text table. However, you have to realize we have to finalize M6, M7 before database lock. Then after, we have real data, after review all this data and realize, it would be better if I was able to play with data a little bit, to look at the figure, to look at a different way. So, I need actually 2 more figures. I need 2 more tables. I was not able to get it. And if I talk to my statistician, you will say, okay, that's going to take how many days you get the output. And I talk to my medical writers, can you just manually create it? They say, no, it's not our responsibility because it should be defined in the M6. What do? I do it myself. So I actually manually created some tables, back the medical writer to look it and ask the statistician to double check. That's the reality. Okay, so that's about CSR. Now, let me give you another example during the study, how the situation looked like. Okay, during the study is, from physician aspect, it's really the safety review is very critical. We look at the trends, we look at the signal, we also look at any outliers. Okay. So that's, I use mainly is Excel listings. Even now for the J review, and my understanding is the reports also is in Excel format. Okay, so we have a numbers of Excel listings. Abnormal lab, then that's the AE, okay. Then that's the overall listings. Look at here. You have all the listings. And tell you the truth, I received this whole package monthly at the beginning. Before database lock, I receive it every 2 weeks. So imagine how many hours I was sitting there looking line by line. The thing is, if I, example, if I look at one event, hypertension, to be able to understand it is medically meaningful, clinically meaningful, I need to open another 4, 5, even 6 Excel listings just to understand if there's any previous history, is there treatment, if this patient really, have any symptoms. So the conclusion is, if we can really easily connect all these dots, will really make our life simple, also decrease the errors. So, of course, I understand the simple for physician, for clinician, probably is not simple for the, for programs or for statistician. Again, I'm just a clinician and I come here for solution. Thank you very much.